An NRA member, an IRS agent, and a Peace Corps volunteer walked into a church lobby. I know that sounds like the setup for a joke, but actually I'm just trying to describe what it might have been like to be a part of Jesus' first group of disciples. Jesus called a really different group of people together. You had rough and tumble fishermen, you had a tax collector, you had political zealots, you had people who were all over the ideological political spectrum. And even though they had the same Jewish faith, they disagreed about how to live that out. The disciples and how different they were underscored two important truths about following Jesus. The great thing about following Jesus is he opens the door for anyone to be in God's family, even you, even me. And the hard thing about following Jesus is that he opens the door for anyone to be in God's family, even you, even me, even them. Whoever them is to you. Why do we struggle to other people? Why do we struggle to love and be at peace with people who have different ideologies and different politics and different opinions from us? I think it's because it drives us crazy that we can't control what they think. And we think that unity means uniformity. We've been learning about having peace in an anxious world. And remember, peace is having confidence in God's wisdom and God's control rather than in our own. A lot of times these ideological divides and these conflicts between people occur because we cannot control what other people believe. And if we can't control it, we can't handle it. Now, I don't know about you, but over my life, who they are, who the other people are, those categories have changed as I've gotten to know people who I once othered. I shared this week in our devotional that when I was in college, I went to a Christian camp and I met people from Duke University who were Christians and loved Jesus. And it kind of blew my mind because I was a Tar Heel and I had been taught that they were other. Over my life, I've met all sorts of people that I was taught to avoid, that I was taught were bad or different. And as I got to know them, I began to realize actually I had more in common with them than I thought and that our differences weren't worth dividing over. One of my best friends is crazy different from me politically. And we have all sorts of conversations about things we disagree about. But we do not separate because we understand that our beliefs politically are not what define us. We are united by Christ, and that's what holds us. We're talking about how do we have peace in this anxious world. And there's a lot of relational brokenness around us. People are getting canceled all the time. How does it feel to you when somebody rejects you or doesn't want anything to do with you because of one belief that doesn't define all of who you are? It's just one thing. How does it feel when you see family members or friends dividing over things that in probably 15, 20 years aren't going to matter anymore? Jesus was always being asked to pick a side. They wanted to know, are you for us or are you for them? And in tonight's gospel passage, we're going to see Jesus kind of be cornered into what people think is a really clever political trap. But Jesus just sidesteps it and calls people to focus on the kingdom of God. See, Ephesians tells us to make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Having peace with one another doesn't come easily sometimes. We got to make effort. But with God's help and following the wisdom path of Christ, we can do it. I'm so glad that you're gathering as a family group to talk about what does it look like to be grounded and have peace in relationships. Now, before you get started talking about the heavy things and where we're divided, talk about this. In our country, there's two main political parties, Democrat and Republican. And so if there were a legitimate third party to emerge, what would their party animal be, right? Republicans have the elephant, Democrats have the donkey. What would the animal for the third party be and why? Thanks again for joining us. I hope you all have a great discussion tonight.